Welcome to the webinar, Inventory, Packages, Price Points, and People, an inside look at leading technical people. This is the second webinar of a series whose goal is to bring awareness to the value of applying analytics to real-world problems. These webinars are an initiative of the Informed Practice session. My name is Patricia Neri. Dr. Carrie Beam and I are the organizers of this webinar series. Today, we will hear from Pooja Dewan, Ann Robinson, Mallory Freeman, and Pallav Chhaochhria on how they manage and motivate their technical team. They will introduce themselves to you. The link for this webinar will be posted in our practice session webpage at Informs. The Q&A feature will be enabled so you can send your questions. At the end of this webinar, there will be a 30-minute virtual networking event organized by Informs.
We get to start it off with some introductions. Pooja, could you give us a brief introduction of yourself, your name, your educational background, your current job title? Who do you lead and how long have you been in this job?
Would love to. Good morning, good evening. My name is Pooja Dewan, and I'm the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Otis Elevators. In my current position, I'm responsible for driving the vision, strategy, and the execution of leveraging data and advanced analytics at Otis Elevators as we are reinventing ourselves in this digital innovation company. We are, trying to embed data and analytics to drive more and more digital intelligence in the way you engage in our products, our services, and operations. I have a PhD in industrial engineering, and prior to joining Otis 2 years ago, I led a data and analytics team for 20 years at BNSF Railway, where I spent the predominant amount of time over there as the chief data scientist. Thanks, Carrie.
Mallory, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So hi, everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Mallory Freeman, and I work at UPS. So really happy to be here with the group today. My current role is Director of Data Science and Machine Learning, and I've been in this role since January. So there's three big areas of responsibility that this role has. One is working with our Data Science and Machine Learning Center of Excellence. So working with our advanced analytics practitioners for the organization. Another area is working to spread enterprise business intelligence solutions. And a third area of responsibility is our data modeling. So how do you bring our data together in meaningful ways to achieve different types of applications embedded with artificial intelligence and data-driven results. Also focusing key in this role on implementing UPS's enterprise data strategy and modernizing where we're going as an organization. So I'm glad to be part of the panel and looking forward to the discussion. Thanks.
Next, Ann Robinson, can you give us your name, your educational background? What are you doing? Who do you lead and manage, and how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Carrie, and thanks everyone for joining today. Ann Robinson, I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Kinaxis, a Canadian-based supply chain planning and risk resiliency company, a very analytically rigorous solution that helps make supply chain planning decisions. I joined Kinaxis about a little more than a year and a half ago, with really the intent of owning the big picture vision and the strategy for the organization. But my team is also responsible for thought leadership and academic outreach, so ensuring that we're understanding where the analytics as they relate to supply chain planning are going, and that we have the right elements in place so that we can stay on the leading edge. So it's a really fun position to be in. Prior to this, I led analytics teams and strategy teams in both high tech and retail and telecom for supply chain organizations. So about 15 plus years of doing that. So I'm very excited to share some thoughts today.
Pallav, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, would love to. Uh, Hi everyone, I'm Pallav Chhaochhria. I got my PhD in operations research from MIT, and currently I am Director of Equities Algorithmic Trading at Citigroup. My role there is mostly to develop algorithms. Our group basically develops algorithmic trading algorithms for clients, and we help them execute automated algorithms in markets for all our clients, as well as other within groups, etc. And prior to this role, I also worked with a number of other banks and prop trading firms in this space. Prior to that, I also worked as an analytics consultant with McKinsey and a few other firms prior also. So have done a bunch of analytic consulting as well as quantitative finance. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now what we're going to do is we will take Q&A from the world at large, or at least the world that has seen fit to register for our webinar. But until we get some questions from the audience, I've got some questions for our panel. So this one is for Mallory. And I'm going to ask all of you, if you could keep your responses to this to 1 to 2 minutes-ish, within measurement error, we'll go with that. So the question for Mallory is, when in your career did you move from an individual contributor role into a management role, and what drove that decision?
Okay, great. Yeah, good question. So I'm in my 6th year of working with UPS after finishing my PhD. And roughly the first half of that time was as an individual contributor in various advanced analytics and OR groups around UPS. And then the second half has been in more of technical leadership roles. And honestly, what drove the pivot from individual contributor to technical leadership was opportunity. So I had the opportunity to build out the advanced analytics and R&D branch of UPS's advanced technology group. So this included hiring in and building up teams in a variety of disciplines: machine learning, OR, visual analytics, mixed reality, taking on projects that could help design and analyze changes in the UPS smart logistics network. For example, the UPS drone airline came out in the time that I was with Advanced Technology Group, so that's UPS Flight Forward, and also building strategic external partnerships like research engagements with academia and student projects. So when I look back at that switch from individual contributor to a leadership role, getting to design and build projects from scratch was just something that I found extremely satisfying. And the fact that it was building an R&D team and scoping projects, it leveraged that technical background that I had coming out of the PhD, but also got me beyond what I could do with the bandwidth if I was just taking on one or two technical tasks. So I thought it was a satisfying balance of moving into a leadership role, but still fostering the technical root side of things. So
you got a bigger sandbox to play in.
Yeah, exactly.
The same question for Pooja. Could you tell us, when in your career did you move from an individual contributor role into a leadership role, and what drove that decision?
So similar to Mallory, in my first few years, I was in a hands-on individual contributor role. And what really drove me to the next level was not me seeking opportunities, but my leader really thinking that I'm ready to go to the next floor. So the first couple of years after that, he wanted me to actually take over the team and establish what Mallory is talking about. And so that just being ability to have work in a bigger sandbox, Gary, in your words, to be, not just to be able to do things yourself, but actually as a team, and which gives you just a lot more power to think through and be able to establish a new research and development team that was focused on a company that had been running without analytics for about 160 years, had a huge legacy. So how do you influence and create an established team, to drive the difference within the business? Because it's all about creating impact. And if you get to do it as a team sport instead of individual sport, that was much more fun. And the same challenge drove me to go from the railroad industry into the Otis elevator industry, which basically was trying to reinvent itself, looking at, establishing how do we drive the way you engage with elevators, which is much more than what you engage with on a railroad track. So
we have a question from the public. Is Nathaniel Richmond. He's asking, hi everyone, have any of you implemented unique motivational strategies to drive team engagement during the COVID-19 pandemic? Have you implemented unique motivational strategies to drive team engagement during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Does Anne have an answer?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions here around COVID-19, and I know that's top on everybody's minds. I think the biggest thing we've lost in COVID-19 is that human-to-human connection that some of us have afforded in the office, in an office environment. But the flip side, what's been unique is we've kind of normalized everyone on your team, whether they're remote or whether they were co-located. So what I found first in sort of the basics is the importance of really ensuring much communication as possible. I had an every other week cadence with my team. Now we have a weekly cadence, of which maybe 20 to 30% of that is just chatting about random stuff as a way to try and mimic some of those informal conversations that we might have had in the office. And then certain team members, and I give them all credit for coming up with ideas to, you know, whether it's playing games or doing things that, again, you wouldn't normally see a team interaction doing in a virtual environment, but has really helped people connect and get to know each other in an informal way as well. You know, virtual happy hours, of course, are important. But at the same time, ensuring that you have the right setup, the right bandwidth, the right you know, webcams to be able to have in your work environment. A lot of computational activities can be very bandwidth intensive, computing intensive. So whether that's having someone in home base who can enable you to have a stronger computer at home, or whether that's ensuring that we've invested in the employees so they can deliver a work product. You know, I'd say we're in a privileged position being in supply chain right now, that there's still a lot of demand. So we are extremely busy, which helps with, of course, keeping people motivated. But Pooja, I think you have some thoughts on that too.
Yes. So, you know, similar to what Anne said, all of us miss those coffee conversations, that ability to connect and chat with people. But it also gave us a realization because, you know, I mean, at least for me, I have a global team. So this was actually a chance to normalize the playing field. So what, you know, Anne's talking about as virtual happy hours, I mean, I used to call them as virtual happy hours / morning cup of coffee tea. And, you know, made it fun, let them come and show their favorite cup or something like that, that allowed you to be an icebreaker, encourage them to talk about what are the challenges they are going through. Some of them have younger kids, the others don't, like Anne said. Some have bandwidth issues, you know, how are they dealing with? We'll be surprised, I mean, no matter what part of the world we are, you know, the problems are the same because work is a part of family and life in general. So giving people that chances to connect, at least from the global team perspective, it gave us to equalize the flow. Having said that, I mean, it's hard. I mean, you do miss the ability to just go out and grab a cup of coffee with a friend. So we've got to recognize that and try to make what we can of this, and I'm sure we'll get past it.
Fantastic, thank you. Our next question is for Pallav. Pallav, do you believe leaders are born or made? And if a mid-career analytics professional wanted to become a leader, what skills would you advise they pick up?
So I believe some people may be born with some of the qualities to be a leader, but a lot of these qualities can also be gained while working as well. So some of the key qualities, of course, are having a clear vision. I mean, as is there. I mean, there must be a sincere enthusiasm, a true enthusiasm for the business, the mission, the products, the services that one is professing. So that is sort of really key and important. Great communication is really needed. But for analytics in particular, I would say one thing that I really find important is integrity. Oftentimes you have to do what is right, which may not be good for the current project or in the short term. And you often have to be the bearer of bad news. And that's something that really takes integrity. I mean, that's something you have to do. It may not look good. may be bad for the project, but you have to do it, and you have to bite the bullet and take the hit in the short term. So that's really important, particularly for analytics leaders, is one thing. Another piece that I'd sort of highlight is stakeholder management, in terms of like listening to, understanding your clients or customers, as well as the team, in sort of figuring out what the problems are, what the motivations are, and eventually managing the expectations and setting all of these things correctly, so that people can come up with a very reasonable project plan with reasonable expectations and deliverables. So that's really important as a leader, to have things where the team can actually be comfortable delivering to a client or a customer. And that's, it's like in analytics, a lot of expectations get mismanaged, and that's something we really want to manage correctly. So I'd sort of stick to these two, as the last two, as like being really important.
Mallory, would you like to add to that question? Do you believe leaders are born or made? And if a mid-career analytical professional wanted to become a leader, what are the skills that you advise they pick up?
Yeah, and I liked how Paul answered that, because I think everybody's path is going to be a little bit different. You'll have to leverage parts of yourself that are just inherent to your personality. You'll have to kind of challenge yourself and stretch a bit to grow in areas that you know need to be developed over time. I think when you hear the term expectation setting and scoping, those are some of the most critical roles to be in for a manager of technical work. So having your own experience there, that you've gone through it on the other side, and then having empathy for trying to make sure that you're setting up your team members for success, knowing how to communicate up the chain so that they know what's likely to be coming in projects, or that you can hear clearly what the objectives are. So really learning how to navigate the different space and finding a way to do it as you, because you're going to be most successful if you're able to be who you are in your role, and find ways to help everybody succeed around you.
Thank you. I just have to say, all of you, so I'm working at the University of Arkansas, and I'm not leaving that job, but in my next life, I totally want to be a new analyst working for each one of you guys. So there's going to be 4 of me working at each of your companies.
Oh, Carrie, anytime.
I heard.
Anytime, I know.
So no, I have my statistics students, and I have my final exam to give, so I can't come work for you guys just now. And there's this great groan coming up from Arkansas right now. They're like, oh man. But no, we have a great question here from Paras Halingel, which says greetings. And the question is, and I'll toss this one to Anne first, what are the biggest challenges you came across while transitioning from a technical role into leading technical people? And what do you suggest for somebody new to this? Like, I have my first managerial job, help.
That's a great question. So thank you, Paras, for posing it. You know, I always knew I wanted to be a people leader. Like, I started in a technical role. I was in supply chain architecture. It was my first job at Cisco, and I loved it. It was fantastic, doing advanced inventory modeling to make sure the supply inventory network around the world was healthy. But I was never more excited as the first opportunity to lead and empower others to do that. So, you know, you talk about challenge. I guess the biggest challenge is letting go, and you have to give room for your now employees working for you to do the work and to complete and add value and to do it. And you need to let them be, and let them do it, and let them deliver. And sometimes it's really hard to make that step from doing everything yourself to letting others do it, because they may approach it differently than you did. They might use different approaches to modeling. They might wind up at a solution that's as good as a solution as you would have gotten to in a very different way. And that can make you very uncomfortable. So how do you set up the space and provide the right amount of guidance so that someone can get to success with you not being in every step of what they're doing? My advice to somebody starting off first, almost Carrie, even before you have that first managerial role, try it first. Try it, put up your hand to manage an intern and see what that's like. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy figuring out what they needed to do, managing their work product? If you that's okay. There are other career paths for you. You might try it again at another point in your life. You do not have to be a manager to be successful in the analytics space. There are a lot of different paths to take. But once you're in there, hire people who are smarter than you, bring in those big brains. I see a few names that I recognize from my past lives on this participants list, and I'm so happy to see the names there. But these are definitely people that I brought in who are a heck of a lot smarter than me and different pieces they brought to the table, and we collectively were successful.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Does any of the other three panelists have anything to add? Again, a quick recap of the question is, what is the biggest challenge you come across transitioning from an individual contributor to a managerial role? Help, I'm a new leader. Yeah, Pooja.
So I echo what Anne said. I think in some sense our field tells us, I mean, there's not one path to get to the destination. So you have to kind of reframe your mind to be there for people, listen to their ideas, provide feedback. Having the technical background gives you the capability to actually be able to be their sounding board and work with them if required. But as a leader, you are there to enable them because, you know, no team's going to be successful just because you are the smartest person. And said, you know, she mentioned, hire people that are actually smarter than you, because if you are the limit of intelligence, your team's not going to deliver that much. So you need to have people that are strong, and you are creating an environment where they get a chance to speak and express openly and let their ideas come to the table. I mean, I've led teams for almost 20 years, and I will tell you, I've been every month, every year, I have had some ideas that have completely knocked me down with a feather. And I wouldn't have even thought about the way they have thought about that problem. So, you know, human mind's amazing. So we do a lot as a team. So our role changes. So you have to kind of reframe your mindset to enable and drive and empower your team there. And then let them grow and be successful. And you'll see all the projects and your goals will be there.
The next question comes from Irv Lastig, and he says, have each of you had key mentors that have helped you advance your career? Did they come from a technical or business background? How did you select your mentors? So, Mallory.
Yeah, I think probably, you know, all of us are just scrolling through a list of people. You only get to a certain point, and this goes for any track, whether you're on a leadership track or individual contributor track, with the help and learnings of the people that you meet along the way. So I've had that good fortune to have technical leaders that I've worked closely with, and as well just business leaders that have kind of taken me under their wing, managing different parts of UPS and just showcasing different aspects of how they approach the job, how they think through what actually matters, how to handle certain situations, how to communicate effectively and appropriately across different and diverse stakeholders that need to get buy-in for projects. So I would say, I think, you know, outlook and how you're looking at those around you can play a big role here. I know I've learned from every single person that I've reported to and philosophy of groups and leaderships that I've been a part of. So I think getting different and diverse experiences there is helpful. And then the other part of the question that I heard asked was, you know, what have you gone after in terms of curation? So I would think there an important principle is really understanding what are you most struggling with in your current role, and who might be the right sounding board for that type of problem, and really thinking about the people that you've had good fortune to connect with along the way. So definitely encouraged.
And would you like to comment on this question on mentors too?
Absolutely. You know, this is a topic near and dear to my heart. And I think this is actually one of the most critical roles Informs has played for me personally, but I think that professional should play going forward. I had the good fortune of coming into the Informs community pretty early in my graduate student career. And I'll say even the poser of this question, I would have considered a technical mentor along the way. So hats off. And just to be able to see a community of people that were at stages of a career path that I wanted to have. And having the opportunity to meet them, learn what soft skills do you need to manage a technical team, I had no idea. And I'll give a call out to Russ, who was at Bank of America at the time, and he told me, check here, go there, look at this. You know, people, you curate these relationships based on, maybe it started with a cup of coffee and some similar ideology around your work philosophies that then grew. And that could be from a technical vantage point or from a managerial vantage point. And really, I attribute a vast number of Informs members to the career path that I've managed to curate.
So our takeaway from this should be everybody should join and engage with Informs. Yes, and then when you grow up, you'll get a background like Patricia's.
Thank you.
Pallav here. I'll just add a couple of things here. It's very important to cultivate mentors. I mean, be it from internships, be it from your initial jobs, and as you continue, and maintain those relationships over the years. Good mentors are hard to find, and when you do find them, do keep in touch, do hold them, and they are a really big source of knowledge, and you do learn a lot from their experiences in various domains as well as technical fields and business areas. Try to learn from it as much as you can, and they will always look out for you as you go on. So they are very good for knowledge as well as career progression in a lot of ways. So you should definitely look out and try to cultivate that.
I think that's an excellent point, Pallav. In fact, think about reverse mentoring as well. When you mentor somebody else, I will tell you, you learn a lot in that process itself. Again, by the way they ask questions, by the way they address it, just gives you a very different capability to look at the problem in a different way. And like Anne mentioned, Informs provides a great avenue and place where you have that opportunity, because there are a lot of professionals that are wanting to connect and see the experience of practitioners. And so no matter what level, I would encourage not just seek out mentors and cultivate and maintain those relationships, but offer that out as reverse mentoring too.
Yeah, it is great. I'm sorry. It is great not to see how much we can, we have at Informs, people with different backgrounds, different interests, and we are all volunteers. Well, and it is source for support of knowledge, for growth. So that is one of the reasons why we are doing these webinars, right? We want to share the good news with anyone who would like to join us and who would like to also present in the future on how do you apply analytics for a better world. And I think we are in a time when we need all the analytics that we can get, no? So the next question from John Milne: how have you developed, strengthened relationships with clients, users of analytics during this pandemic, remote working times? Many of us are working remote, right? Most of us, if not all.
I can take that.
Thank you.
I think in this time of pandemic, we just have to change the channels in which we are connecting with our customers in a different way. The essence doesn't change, which is communicating with them, trying to still connect and understand their needs and make sure you are delivering to those expectations or having a conversation. So, you know, a pandemic gives you that chance and empathy, because in some sense, the entire world is facing this together. so you being able to relate to them and understanding how the world around them is unraveling. I mean, the way we saw, whether it was the academic, how the courses are delivered, how people are being challenged with little kids around in the house, bandwidth limitations, no boundaries of work-life balance, they're all same for every one of them. So on top of it, you're trying to truly survive as a business or an academic in a completely different way now. When, you have to do it in a, socially distanced, practice that and still be able to connect. So each of your customers, each of your teams is going through some of the challenges that they were not facing 4 months ago. So now is more of a time where you need to take an effort. And the extra effort is now you do need to actually sit back and say, which conversations and communications do I really need to have? Because you do need to schedule it. You can't bump into them. You can't visit them. So you need to schedule it and plan it in a way. And also be prepared to understand that some of them would be, dealing with different time zone and challenges, because we might have flown to visit them. And now it might be a midnight hour for you and the morning hour. So having that, the emotional intelligence to understand that portion and part of that equation as well is going to help out. And especially, thinking from their shoes, what is now their biggest problem as their companies or they are trying to reinvent themselves in this pandemic?
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the mentors. This one is from Tolu Ayangbai. I hope I said the name correctly. What advice do you have for identifying a mentor and then asking them to be your mentor? Maybe I'll ask Pallav to talk about that a little bit.
Okay. I would say it depends mostly on what is the area of expertise or interest that you're looking at. If you are interested in a particular domain in terms of technical domain or business domain that you are interested in, you approach a person who is an expert in those areas and look for somebody who can guide you in those areas. And that's how you look for mentorship there. Or it might be something where you are an intern or you start working in one of those areas, and that person is guiding you either as a manager or somebody who is in a senior role, and you gradually develop an informal mentorship relation there. And these are typical ways that you identify a person, and gradually it becomes a mentorship role.
Thank you. Mallory, did you have anything to add? How do you find a mentor? And it's kind of almost like the prom date question, like writ large.
Yeah, and I think I think having eyes open for lots of types of opportunities. So I'll echo what Pallav mentioned. So I think there's probably two paths here. One is informal programs, and one could be formal programs where you actually apply for a mentor. It could be within your company, could be within a professional society. So looking for opportunities there, and you can kind of cater to a certain area that you're looking to develop. On the informal side, yeah, mentoring is actually a two-way street. So making sure that if you're informally approaching somebody for a mentorship, building up a relationship or set of contacts with them, and trying to be respectful and make sure it's a good fit for both sides. But again, looking for people that resonate with you, or that could even be just have a very diverse perspective compared to what you do, and that's something that you're looking to build and curate. So being thoughtful about it and thinking through how to leverage both informal and formal channels.
We have a question from Anne Attorney. She was our first presenter, the inaugural webinar, and is a beloved person in the Informs community. Her question is, are there any courses that you wish you had taken as a graduate student? And that question goes to Anne.
Anna, thanks for your question. Well, the number one thing I tell my academic friends is in your courses, please, please teach people about change management. I didn't even know it was a science when I graduated, and here I am as a 20-something making cool math models and wondering why the world isn't adopting them. Like, of course it's better than what you're doing. They're going to kick you out the door. I've learned from my experience the importance of change management and realizing the value of stakeholder engagement and defining a vision and getting people involved and going on this journey, I think might be the largest hurdle to the success of analytics projects in practice. So if that was just fundamentally part of the analytics education, it's part of the CAP certification. You cannot be CAP certified without showing that you have change management capabilities. To me, that is hands down the biggest piece that I wish had been added to my wonderful educational background.
Thank you. Mallory, Pallav, you are saying yes.
Yeah, I agree very much. I mean, when
yes.
I look at my consulting background, I mean, that is something I really think was super important, which we probably did not cover as much in our technical curriculum.
Yeah, Mallory.
And I agree with those. I'll almost take a different perspective because I agree with those points. What classes do I wish I had taken? Almost all. You almost want to learn as much as you can when you have the opportunity. But there's also just the fact that no matter what you end up doing after school, you'll be continuing to learn. So also don't worry if you don't get a chance to take all the courses because you're going to be learning throughout your entire career. And it'll be according to different things that you have to pick up along the way. It could be things that wouldn't even be in the curriculum unless you're lucky, like change management or some of those soft skills or communication skills that go alongside with the technical projects. But our world is changing. New techniques are coming out all of the time. We're getting more computational power that we can apply towards significant problems. So just having a mindset of continuous learning is going to be critical for anybody.
Yeah, I think that that is, I mean, to be a life learner and be adaptable and flexible is so important. Yes, I have learned so much while I have been working than when I was at school, right? And that is part of the excitement of being in this area. It is amazing. Pooja, would you like, as Carrie said, 1-2 minutes plus minus 3 seconds with your answer?
So I think I would say I went really broad in my graduate career. So I took courses in statistics, economics, AI, computer science, math. So, went all over. But I think the key portion is what I would completely agree with Mallory. I think it's continuous learning. You can't stop learning. That's how we will, our fields are really evolving at a very, very tremendous pace. So techniques that were learned in hardcore optimization courses are equally embedded and underneath, whether you were talking about statistics or machine learning or what you learn in computer science. And it's a polymath. I mean, the big differences are not going to be made if you're just going very deep inside, but trying to bring the learning from one field to the other as well. So continue to learn. I mean, I can't pinpoint it's one. I would agree with Anne. I think the social skills, the ability to communicate, the ability to package, to understand and empathize how your models are truly impacting the end users and what role do they play in there and helping them, what's in it for them, that capability will help you get that success, to be able to not just be getting success, but also that meaningful satisfaction that you truly helped somebody. You didn't, you were truly empowering them and changing the way they are operating. So no matter what level, so, you can't say, and I have just one course I could attribute it to, but it's probably more of continuous learning.
So in a nutshell, if I could summarize your answers to that, your answers would just be yes. So, All right. Our next question from the lines is from Eric Mormon, who says, hello, thank you so much for taking the time to participate. So you guys already have a fan club lighting up the internet here. The question is, stuff can get competitive in the office. People are trying to aggressively build their own resumes or hit their own performance metrics. How would you recommend that we move an organization from an unhealthy taker's culture to a healthier collaborative giver's culture?
Well, I can jump in if you'd like. I'll start and I'll let somebody else take it. You know, changing culture is really challenging, and thanks, Eric, for the question. And sometimes they'll say it's not even possible, but it really has to start from the top. Now, that top doesn't mean the CEO. The top could be a much smaller part of your organization, and starting to lead by example, setting around guidelines for your particular space on what's acceptable and not acceptable for your core culture, and ensuring you continue to lead by example and not get caught in the unhealthy culture that may permeate another part of your organization. I think we all see it. There's different personalities in different parts of organizations. So it really is looking at that localized leadership. Even if you're just a little team of 3, you decide amongst the 3 of you, this is how you're going to work to be successful. And then hopefully that starts to spread and grow as either the leader is promoted to a bigger sandbox, or as other groups realize the successes, because quite frankly, success breeds success, and that how it happens with culture as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pooja. Would you like to elaborate on culture change?
So culture eats strategy. and the strategy officers, I'm going to kind of say the same thing. I think some of the things that make you successful as a leader are some of the ways you need to deal with it. You know, having the emotional intelligence to understand what are you walking into, what are the people doing, is there truly a lack of understanding between the different silos? You know, you should have that moral compass, doing the right thing over there. And as I mentioned, you don't have to always start at the top. Whatever that microcosm is, you make sure you lead by example, do the right thing. And that itself, with the understanding of that emotional intelligence of what's around you and how much can you influence that to change. And then slowly success will breed success out there. It does take a while. I mean, you know, it takes a while to turn the ship around. So, but truly, you yourself should be part of a solution and not become a problem in the space itself. Make sure that at least stays part of your moral compass.
This question comes from Sandeep M. I imagined that stakes are much higher with decisions you take as a leader. How did you manage this aspect and associated expectations? Have your supervisors or peers helped you? I am sure your decisions are backed by data and models, but still. So how did you manage this aspect and associated expectations?
Maybe I'll toss that to Mallory first. It's
yes.
like the OMG moment where you realize who's the boss. Oh, that's me.
Yeah, so this is a good question. Yeah, and you're thinking through. So how do you go into a decision? And if you are in a leadership role, making decisions is going to be part of that role. Your job is to facilitate, as a leader, good decisions for the organization, and that's going to involve what you think, but also, you know, more important than that, how you can get feedback. And feedback's coming from both directions here. So you're wanting to make sure you've got a clear understanding of what strategy you're trying to implement as a team, and knowing how you align with your senior leaders. And you're also trying to understand the perspective of the feedback that you're getting from your team. And that's really important. Your job is to kind of balance those 2 layers of different inputs, bring your own knowledge to the table, and then try to synthesize that, you know, ideally not into just a final decision, but something that weighs the trade-offs, puts it out there in a way that everybody's clear on, and then helps pave a path forward for you and the organization. And if you've got good, clear guidance from up top, and you can give adequate heads up to your leaders, you can usually facilitate decisions effectively. effectively.
That's a great answer. That underscores again that once you're in a leadership role, much of the job is communication. It's no longer just making this decision in my own corner of the sandbox, but I'm part of the organization and I need to have that communication go out. Sandeep has a fabulous follow-on question, which I will toss to Pallav first, which is, could you please list one decision where you had to do something that had to make a decision that you felt anxiety about, and how do you manage this anxiety?
Sure. So in my line of work, I mean, almost all of our algorithmic trading has to do with P&L and profit and loss. And it often is like, when we create a strategy, do we put it in the market, and do we actually think it'll make money? Now, in all of our research, it usually shows it'll make money, but then will it actually make money when it goes to the market? And what are all the risks that we have considered? And have we actually considered all the true liquidity situations and the true market conditions? And have these been simulated adequately? So all of these things are in an idealized form, but when you take it to market, that's when things typically go wrong. And so that's the risk you always take. And that's true not just for markets or trading, but for any supply chain or any other situation as well. And that's the risk of being in a sort of managerial or leadership role. You have to take on the risk of decision making and decide at what point is the testing and simulation enough, and when should you actually move on to implementation and deployment, and is this good enough? So that's part of your role. Communicate it to both, as Mallory pointed out, you got to communicate both the risks and the upside as well as the downside to your team, as well as to maybe senior management, upwards, downwards, and take the jump, take the plunge, and that's how you move on.
Thank you. Anne, I saw you nodding vigorously there. Do you have something to add to decision-making and anxiety and how to manage?
Well, just that pivotal moment, I could feel Pallav's energy, right? When you are doing some kind of your team lead or a manager or a sponsor of a project, and you've done all the modeling, you've done the scenarios, you've done the testing, you have to make the decision to actually start using this thing for real. And are all the stakeholders, goes back to change management, all the stakeholders on board? What could happen? What if it goes wrong? Do we ready for risk mitigation? Like that decision moment can be one of the most thrilling. Like I say, you've got a spotlight or a bullseye on you in that moment, and just making that decision to make that what feels like a monumental step happen can be probably one of the most anxiety-inducing but adrenaline, inducing moments of your career. And the best is when you have a fantastic team around you. And that's what really, I mean, you feel like their lives are in your hands, but that's what makes the success that much sweeter.
Pooja, have you ever felt anxious taking a decision?
Have I ever? Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that, Patricia?
It's the same question. It's the same question. Could you please list one decision where you had to take a decision that you felt a bit anxious about?
I think we underestimate the people that are available to us to be our sounding board, whether it's, in our team or the people that we work for. If we truly talk with them, you will realize that hearing different perspectives, you will get to know the right thing that needs to happen. And, so honestly, to tell you the truth, I've not felt it, because anytime I feel that there is a position that I am in that I'm not sure, I really do engage all of them. And then as a collective, make that best decision out there that makes sense. I think in some sense, you have to remember, we forget, success is built on failure. These small ideas and projects and sometimes are not a key indicator of long-term things. If you find things, how do you respond to it and adjust it to make it not become a failure is truly what you're making, you're training your team and yourself for. So, if nothing else helps, just say, I need to sleep it overnight, and the things look very different with a good night's sleep.
That's like Pooja's best advice for the anxious is sleep on it. And I'm sure somebody out there is thinking, how exactly is that going to work? But secrets of leadership. Fantastic. So this question is for Mallory. Many people say managing technical people is a very different ballgame. Do you agree? And if so, what are the top differences between managing technical people and managing regular people? And we have regular people in quotes. I'm not quite sure what a regular person is, but you can pretty much imagine.
Well, to be honest, so I'm still newer in my leadership path, so I'm always learning, period. And if I look at keys to success for managing different individuals, you're usually trying to find the right motivator for that particular individual. So I think I've certainly spent more time in managing technical roles. I think the good part there is I've got an empathy, given a technical background going into the leadership role for what it can be like to approach the types of problems that you get in these areas. But everybody's different, and that's something that you kind of learn as you go into a journey. So I think that came out in the panel earlier. Anne was bringing it up in the sense that the biggest thing as you switch over is trying to learn how to let go a bit and let other people's vision for how to accomplish this overall mission could come through. So your job is setting, the why, setting the reason we're going after a certain mission. In my team's case right now, modernizing our enterprise data strategy for UPS, or making analytics more available throughout the organization. And then finding people that want to take that on in different ways. You've got technical contributors that are going to be working on specific projects, and you've got team members that might be doing project management, building out architecture solutions to make cloud computing available for a broader analytics community, shaping our relationship and our data quality with our business stakeholders and our IT stakeholders. So finding the right people to bring to the problems that you're facing is I think the mix. And I don't have any secrets. I'd love to listen to the others for the panel.
Yeah. We'll toss that one over to Pooja as well. I'll rephrase the question a little bit, which is, how do you manage and motivate technical people differently from regular people?
So, Carrie, I raised my hand because I actually, we do design of experiments and try to figure out and learn how things respond to it and make our, learnings from that. And I actually had a chance where simultaneously me as a person was leading operating teams, so in your definition, the regular people, hadn't gone through to get masters and PhDs in computer science and engineering out there. And at the same time, I was leading R&D team in my past job. And it was very interesting and enlightening to me at that time. I would, when it came to the operating team, my feeling was I was not the subject matter expert. I truly used to rely a lot on my people, and I wanted them to actually tell me what are they thinking, because that's really what I was using to make a lot of decisions. And, I felt that team was actually willing to even jump off the cliff, and I used to keep holding them back. I am not the subject matter expert. I really do need to hear what your opinions are. And at the same time, here I was, PhD in the same area as what I was leading my technical teams, and there would be so many discussions with my team to have some simple decisions made. And I think at that time I realized the difference was that one team was willing to jump off even though when I was not an SME, and they really did think that I was helping them lead, was because my ability to listen to them and make them and be much more open and responsive to their feedback, which helped me formulate different answers, versus when I was a technical expert. In some sense, subconsciously, I was already having preconceived notions. And I had the fortune of doing this early on in my career. So it really helped me shape as becoming a technical leader, to keep an open mind, to, keep reminding myself, am I listening enough, or am I already coming with a preconceived solution because I have the domain expertise in that area? So I think this is one of those places. There's absolutely a difference in the kind of people you are dealing with and their background, their ability to actually, take your decisions and jump off the cliff, or actually push back and ask. I think as leaders, we need to remember that once your role changes, it's not just about knowing the best answer, but letting your team come up with you and being part and feel that that was their answer, which leads to a lot more success in long run.
Thank you. I notice we are at 4 minutes to the hour. Patricia, how are we doing on time? Do we have time for one final question, or are we
I think
about
we have
done?
time for one final question, or
Okay,
one more question.
you get to pull it.
Can you comment on the importance of diversity in your organization? Pallav.
Yeah, sure. So diversity is definitely very important. It gives us great diversity in thought, as well as like all kinds of new approaches. I mean, diversity in terms of way people think, the way people implement things, etc. And that's really important. I mean, from a technical, operational, all of those views, as well as how we get along. I mean, how we work as a group, as a culture, in all of those ways as well. So in that sense, I think diversity really works well. And I mean, I look at our group, it is a really big mix of people from pretty much all over the world. Firstly, it is a global group. We have people from, it is North America, Europe, Asia, India, and then again, within each of these areas, we do have a pretty global mixed team. So it does help a lot, and does help a lot with putting together an efficient solution when people are trained from different parts of the world and they come in with very diverse thoughts and interesting solutions.
Thank you. Anne, would you like to comment on this 30 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very critical to us as well at Kinaxis. And I have to say, this is the first place I've ever worked where I felt that an employee is valued for all of their multi-dimensions. It's the most open and accepting environment I've ever been in. But the most fascinating part is we have an Autism at Work program that really looks at neurodiversity as part of our work environment. And as I was starting, one of my colleagues said to me, the unexpected benefit of this amazing program, so we have a target percentage of people who are actually hired who are on the autism spectrum, but you don't know who they are. So any interesting quirk or, idiosyncrasy that you bring to the table, well, you might be part of the Autism at Work program. So it's created this amazingly accepted environment for all kinds of different thinkings, approaches, quirks, idiosyncrasies. And as a result, it's created this amazing family. So it's been really critical to who Kinaxis is and the image that we like to bring to the world.
Well, we have 1 more minute, 1 minute left. Everyone is saying thank you to the panelists for their advice, their participation.
It seems like Patricia froze up, which means it is perpetual thank you to you all. So I want you to just bask in this, the forever thanks. We've had some fantastic questions. I want to thank all of our audience. I want to thank all of our questioners and our answers. And we are going to close this webinar now. Those of you who've registered, you should have received a link to the other chat, so you can jump onto chat and networking. And you can also join us at our next webinar, Supply Chain Resilience Through Planning. Planning and Design. It is Friday, August 21st at noon Eastern Standard Time. We'll have Duncan, a fellow and co-founder at Kinaxis. Kinaxis is really coming through for us on the panelist front here. And Zahir Balaporia, a senior director and solutions architect at FICO. That webinar will cover processes and technology, basically for getting stuff into and then out of your supply chain and keeping track of it while it's there. So with that, I will say Pooja, Pallav, Mallory, and Anne, thank you so much for spending your lunch or your breakfast with us, depending on your time zone. Patricia, it's always great to co-host with you. And everybody else, click over and out, and we'll see you in the chat.